Our name is Ghosts Want You Dead. The ghosts tell us that they have other, equally sinister plans. But those plans must remain a mystery for the time being. All will be revealed soon. Hello, I'm Matthew. I forgot to say that last week, in case you forgot.
I thought you said it.
And not to be confused with other Matthew, who we'll be hearing from shortly.
We will be.
And
Yeah.
who are you, Heifer?
Oh, yeah, I'm Rebecca. Well, no, you threw me off. Well, but I tripped you up last week because yeah,
I've had my revenge. Little peek behind the curtain. We usually record on Fridays, and then I procrastinate editing and uploading until late Sunday night and often get in just under the wire.
unless I procrastinate and don't come over or remotely record with him until Saturday or Sunday. And then it's a horrible mad dash because
Well,
I'm a chaos monster.
that's a bit of theater that you and I do.
It is.
Because when you flake out on Fridays, I get mad and insist that, well, that leaves me no time to edit if we don't do it until later in the weekend. But even when we do it on Fridays, I still don't do it until Sunday
Well,
night.
I like to armchair diagnose everybody, and I know I am raw dogging ADHD out here unmedicated, and I suspect that you might have a touch. Did you know that ADHD in women gets worse with menopause? And also, there was a study that was like the reason that they used to think that ADHD could go away was because men grew up and got married, and therefore the executive function tasks and shit were put on a lady.
That makes sense.
And so then they were like, I'm cured. The dishes are done, man.
Also, I didn't know about the menopause thing, but that
Yeah.
makes sense
When your
because we
hormones
don't
get
study
wonky.
women. So,
Yeah, it's true.
shall we talk about dark shadows?
Yeah.
Am I boring you?
No. That was a weird voice, sorry. No. You're not.
Well, let's see if I can.
Well, let's give it a shot. Episode
Episode
oh.
126.
Victoria Winters reminds us that it's nighttime, and Burke has maybe come to save the day, or rather save the night, but he better hurry 'cause Matthew's fixing to kill her. During the voiceover, Burke arrives at the main house, and at the old house in Creep Jail, Matthew is menacing Vicky and saying the titular line that our humble podcast is named after: "The ghosts, they want you dead."
That's a pretty good impression. Matthew has devised a way to kill her that should be painless, and he thinks that's being nice. He sounds like he's doing her a favor, but
Yeah.
when Vicky screams, he ties her up tighter and then tries to be comforting some more in his own creepy way. When she's like, "Ah, that hurts." He says, "Oh, don't worry, nothing'll hurt in a few minutes when you're dead."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm gonna kill you real nice," like an animal. It's genuinely terrifying.
Well, Vicky tries to tell him that ghosts aren't real and that he is crazy, but he disagrees and reminds her again that ghosts want her dead. He wanders off to find a murder implement while Vicky pleads aloud for help. She cries out for somebody to please help her. Cut to Josette's portrait briefly before the opening credits.
I thought she did a real good job in that scene. She did a really great job being genuinely exhausted and terrified.
Yeah, she was on this week. Also,
Yeah.
later on when she's talking to Liz, it was good stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, Vicky continues to call for help from somebody, anybody. Back in the main house on the foyer stairs, Burke is imploring David to explain why he summoned him to the house in the middle of a damn night. Roger stands back a bit, being bitchy about the whole affair throughout, and David makes Burke promise that he's not going to let him get into any trouble before he tells what he knows. And Burke does so despite Roger's protests, so David finally reveals that Ghost Bill told him to tell them that he knows where Vicky is. Back at the old house, Matthew finds an axe or hatchet or some such, and we get a dramatic close up of that.
And Vicky's screaming for help again because he's out of the house, and so while she's not gagged up, she's taking the opportunity to scream her little head off.
And at this, Josette comes on down from her portrait as the theremin goes fucking nuts. In Creep Jail, Vicky cries, but Josette appears to comfort her. She introduces herself. She's like, "Hey, I'm Josette. I've been dead a couple hundred years. I live in that painting. Anyway, everything's gonna be fine."
Yeah, she keeps saying, don't be afraid," which made me think of that song that's all spooky, and that's pretty much it, and I'll play it for you later. Maybe we'll put it on the internet. Yeah, she's saying, don't be afraid," and Vicky's asking, like, "Well, is someone coming to save her?" And Josette's just vague and ghostly and says, "Don't be afraid."
Back in the foyer, Burke wants to know how David knows Vicky is with Matthew. David explains the whole deal about hiding Matthew and feeding him, but that's not bad because he thought that Matthew hadn't done anything wrong. And he teases it out for a while, wanting reassurance that he's not going to get into any trouble. He does eventually reveal that Matthew is in the old house hiding in creep jail. David explains, but makes it real fucking dramatic and suspenseful and way longer than it needs to be instead of just saying, okay, they're behind the bookshelf.
Yeah, well, he's going on about the secret because that's the whole reason, like, "Oh, a secret that only Matthew and I know." And that's the whole reason the little baby sociopath ever went along with Matt. He didn't give a fuck about Matthew. He wanted to know the secret. And so he's like, "I know a secret." And also, Vicky's gonna be murdered in the secret, and here's how to get to the secret.
Well, back at the old house, Matthew is creeping back in with his axe or hatchet, and Vicky calls out asking who's there, and he enters creep jail and she starts to panic, but she tells him that Josette stopped by to visit, and that gives him pause. Back in the foyer, Roger is indignant that he's never heard of any secret room at the old house. And well, I've got a secret passage in here. Bet you didn't know that.
Yeah, well, he
Yes.
didn't tell anybody,
Well,
but
no, but
he
that
wanted
was
to.
the
He wanted to brag.
implication.
Yeah,
And Burke makes David explain exactly how to get to Creep Jail.
but
David is bummed out that Burke appears to be mad at him, but he does explain how to get into Creep Jail. Burke has a little argument with Roger about borrowing a gun, and Roger eventually agrees to go fetch two guns and come with him to search for Vicky. Back in Creep Jail, Vicky is reasoning with Matthew that no, see, Josette came to hang out. The ghosts actually like me, so they couldn't possibly want me dead. However, since they like me, if you kill me, then they're gonna want you dead.
yeah.
Ghosts want you dead. No,
Ghosts
ghosts
want
want
you
you
dead.
dead.
Back
Back in the foyer, Burke and Roger are loading their guns. Something, something, dick joke.
Yeah, I like that they're dressed like a couple little Elmer Fuds and their Elmer Duds, the little trench coats and shotguns. They're gonna go catch a creepy man.
And Burke promises not to shoot Roger, even though he kind of wants to.
Anyway, they load their guns and head out.
David wants to go with them, but is denied. So they take off, and David pouts on the stairs. Back in Creep Jail, Vicky is continuing to threaten Matthew. that the ghosts are on her side and they're gonna get him if he does anything, but he's not buying it. He thinks that she's just trying to get spared, so he raises the hatchet and Vicky screams. Just on time, Josette calls out
Matthew, 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 Matthew.
a bunch,
A
and
bunch.
sometimes it's layered. There's like 3 or 4 Josettes doing it, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's freaking out and is yelling at the ghost.
He
Oh,
pulls Vicky's hair and demands to know if she can hear the chorus of Matthews, and then
oh yeah, and she can't.
he threatens to kill the ghost.
Yes, he's freaking out and yelling to kill the ghosts, and he leaves creep jail to go yell at the ghosts some more, and he's intermittently hearing Matthew, 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 and it's more intense than the Matthews of yore.
And in the front room, Ghost Bill sings him,
What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? Away in the morning.
And then materializes as he's singing, and
Matthew
Matthew
gets up
screams.
in Ghost Bill's face and tries to hatchet or axe him.
He does. And, Matthew asks what Ghost Bill wants, and he says, "Your life," and then proceeds to do a long, weird laugh, which is great.
After Ghost Bill's adorable ghost laugh, other ghosts start to appear as Matthew shrinks back in fear, and a total of 5 ghosts are taunting him, demanding his life, his life. And he tries to hatchet or axe those ghosts too,
Which
but
I'm guessing they're the widows. I just said, like, some ghost gals, like, but they look kinda like pilgrims?
perhaps that's
Yeah,
what it's supposed to be,
maybe.
but anyway, he tries to hatchet or axe them to no avail because that is a silly plan, and they pursue him, demanding his life. He screams, "No! No! Ah!" and then is quiet. So Vicky demands to know what is happening, but just then, Burke and Roger arrive to the rescue, and Burke calls out for her, and she hollers so they can find her, and in come Burke and Roger to untie her and ask her where Matthew is. She warns them that he's around here somewhere and he's got an axe or hatchet. The trio exit Creep Jail, and Burke or Roger, I can't recall,
Roger.
assure Vicky that,
Oh, no.
"Don't worry, we've got guns."
Oh, no, Burke does that.
And then as they're coming out of Creep Jail, they discover Matthew sitting in an armchair in the front room, and Roger shouts at him, but he doesn't move, so Roger touches his arm to rouse him, at which Matthew falls over because he is dead. The threesome beat a hasty retreat. Dramatic close-up of Matthew's corpse. End credits.
Uh,
Episode 127, Victoria Winters, reminds us that Crazy Matthew did have her captive and was going to kill her, but now she is loose. We see Vicky's rescue and the discovery of Matthew's body from the last episode again before the opening credits, and it feels kind of like a cheap trick when they do that, when they repeat the last scene of the previous episode rather than doing a proper cold open.
well, that also is indicative of the genre and, like, a lot of recap for soaps when it tends to be, like, something big like that they'll recap last week.
Back over at the main house, Liz is rushing downstairs to call the sheriff, and she explains all of the goings on of the night. Mrs. Johnson overhears and runs in to gossip, and she insists again that, well, if she's with Matthew, Vicky is totally dead.
Yeah, she's probably dead, and I have bad spooky feelings, and
She tells Liz all about the specter of death again, and Liz is like, "Would you give it a
yeah,
rest,
she doesn't
Juice?"
wanna hear it. She's shut up.
But She is saved by Burke, Roger, and Vicky entering, and Liz exclaims in relief, calling Vicky darling, sounding almost like a mom. Roger explains about Matthew being dead, but not knowing quite how he died, and Roger needs a drink, so he goes to take care of that and surprisingly offers a drink to Vicky and even Burke too. So finding a body together, I guess, is a bonding experience, even with your sworn enemy.
It's true.
Liz fusses over Vicky and asks her if she wants a doctor, but she does not. Roger suggests that, well, she should call the police, and she says, oh no, I already called George, he's on the way. Liz and Roger argue until Vicky tries to shut them up and launches into an explanation about how the ghosts saved her from Matthew, and she starts to get all worked up and upset again
Yeah,
until Burke insists that she go to bed. I do like our recurring theme of everybody sending everybody to
yes.
bed all the time.
Please just go to bed. I need someone to send me to bed.
Yes. Well, Burke insists that Vicky go to bed and no one disagrees, so Liz starts to lead Vicky upstairs and Vicky asks her if she believes her little ghost story. Liz says they'll talk about it later, which means no. After they've gone, Roger asks Burke if he believes the ghost story. Burke doesn't know. Roger immediately thinks it was just her imagination, but Burke isn't so sure about that. Later, Liz returns to the drawing room after putting Vicky to bed. Roger has gone off with the sheriff, and I was a little disappointed we didn't get to see George. Surely he would have had something snarky to say about all
Yeah,
of this.
I do love George. Burke asks Liz if he can go up to tell Vicky goodnight, and she says yes. She thanks him for saving Vicky, and he says he didn't do it for her. And she says that she's very fond of Vicky and thinks of her as family, and he says that he is fond of her too. And Liz takes this opportunity to say, "How fond?" And he's like, "None of your business." And
They were
she's like,
being cordial with each
"They
other
were."
up until that point, but then she gets all mama bear at him, imploring that he stop toying with her daughters.
Yeah, she's like, "Well, it kinda is my business because 'cause you're trying to date both of my daughters, so you better stay away from them." And he's like, "You're not the boss of me." And she says, "Well, just don't hurt them." And
Well,
Liz says she thinks he's very handsome
Liz says she thinks he's very attractive, to
to
Vicky.
Vicky. Yeah.
Burke dismisses Liz's concerns and says, I'm not interested in getting with Vicky. She's a nice kid, but that's all.
Well, he doesn't even quite put it that way because I think he leaves room. What he says is, falling for a foundling governess doesn't fit into his plans. I mean, it's clear that he has real and genuine feelings for Vicky while he is just dicking around with Carolyn.
Liz hopes
Oh,
that Burke is being honest. He goes upstairs, and Liz goes to look dramatically out of the window about it. Upstairs in Vicky's room, Mrs. Johnson is gossiping that G. Burke must be sweet on Vicky. She explains how concerned he was about her being missing and how he called all the time for
Calden's Calvaries,
updates and
yeah.
called in private investigators. And then Mrs. Johnson remembers at the last minute that she isn't supposed to like Bert, so she gives he's still a dick, but I
Not
guess
that
he
I like
likes
him or
you. Yeah.
anything. Yeah, it was very funny.
Burke knocks to say goodnight, so Mrs. Johnson leaves them alone, and Vicky expresses her gratitude for the rescue, even though Matthew was dead. So they didn't really rescue her from anything. They just walked her back to the house.
The ghost rescuer.
And Burke flirts right after telling Liz that he wasn't going to. Vicky is puzzled. He is cryptic, and like he's being flirty at her, but then clearly holding it back. And he excuses himself and says he'll just call her in the morning. But on his way out, he warns her that she should leave Collinwood for the umpteenth time.
And she says she's sticking put and that her mind is made up, and
She says, well, nothing to be afraid of now that Matthew's dead and everything's cool. I'm fine. I'm not worried about it.
he says if she ever needs anything to call him, and he lingers and they lock eyes and he touches her hair and they both clearly want to kiss but don't, and it was sweet and sad. And
She watches him leave wistfully. And downstairs, Roger comes back in again, discarding his coat and hat haphazardly in the foyer. He tells Liz that the body has been taken away, but there probably won't be an inquest because the coroner can tell that he had a heart attack.
Bert comes down as he's saying this and is like, "What now?" And Roger says that it was natural causes that killed Matthew, like a heart attack. They go on to describe that he clearly died of fright.
They don't say it outright
No.
there. Roger implies that, well, he must have seen something that shocked him, and that's what gave him the heart attack. But then Roger says he isn't interested in knowing what. Later on, a close up on the foyer clock tells us that it is 2 a.m. A figure creeps into Vicky's room. Oh shit, is she not out of danger? Oh wait, no, it's just mommy bringing her some drugs. Speaking of mommy's little helpers, if you join the Patreon, we'll be recording our first episode or our first bonus episode this week, which will be all about Liz's pills. Anyway, Liz comes in and gives Vicky some drugs so that she can sleep and tells her she can take the day off tomorrow and rest. And Vicky thanks her for her kindness.
That's just so crazy to me. Like, also that she didn't see a doctor or talk to George or anything. They're just like,
It
"You've
is
been trapped
funny.
in a house for days, kidnapped by this madman
And
for like
you're
a
just
week," or
getting
like,
to bed after
yeah.
midnight, but I'm going to assume that you were planning on reporting for work after
So
breakfast.
don't worry about it. It's on me. You can have a day. But she seems grateful for it and is happy about that. And she's going to sleep in. They
Uh,
talk about David.
Vicky thanks Liz for her kindness, and Liz says, well, the kind thing to do would be to fire you and get you away
Yeah.
from here. But Vicky thinks that's silly. But she does ask Liz again if she believed her about the ghost. She insists she really did see Josette. She wasn't freaking out or in a state. She was lucid, and she really did see Josette just as sure as she's seeing Liz now. But Liz just tells her to put it out of her mind. Vicky relates, actually, Josette's pretty cool. Maybe ghosts aren't all that scary. Vicky also goes on to say that Ghost Josette looked kind of like her.
And she felt
Vicky, that is.
protected by her, that she looked like Vicky.
Vicky,
And
go ahead.
well, Liz is like, "Nah, she doesn't look like you at all." And Vicky's like, yeah, she does." And she does, like the portraits, it makes sense. And
Vicky wonders if she might be a secret Collins, at which Liz gets tongue-tied and defensive.
yeah.
Vicky asks Liz if she's ever seen a ghost, and she tells her, no, not personally, but my great aunt did see a ghost when she was a kid, and she tells her the story, and they both figure that the ghost in the story was also Josette. Liz is tired of ghost chat and urges Vicky to go to sleep, and they can talk about it tomorrow.
Vicky owns her renewed connection to her Collins roots by repeating the phrase, "She does exist. She does exist. She does exist," over and over again, just to fit into the family as she falls asleep.
On her way out the door, Liz takes one last motherly look at Vicky, then leaves, closing the door behind her.
Oh.
As you said, the curtains blow in the open window and the wind howls. And then we see Ghost Josette doing her Kate Bush ghost twirling on the front porch of the old house while the theremin goes bonkers again. End credits.
Episode 128. Victoria Winters tells us that her nightmare is over, but that the ghost killed Matthew, which is good, but weird.
In the restaurant, Joe enters, and of course, he and Maggie immediately set to gossiping about all of the
And they're like,
Matthew
girl,
business.
what is happening in this town?
Right after Maggie makes a cute crack about her coffee being old and gross because that's her bit at the restaurant. She's always telling people, "Yeah, I made this coffee 2 weeks ago."
Yeah.
Uh, Maggie wants confirmation that Matthew was frightened to death. Opening credits.
They gossip about it some more, and Joe thinks it was just old age and a heart attack, and Maggie's like, nah, Matthew Morgan died of fright.
Joe says that's silly and childish, but
He eats his breakfast and argues about not believing in ghosts, and she asks why he refuses to believe. He hardline atheists and logic, sciences at her a little bit, and
they go back and forth about it for a while, with Joe thinking that Vicky was imagining things. And then during the course of this, she teases him about Carolyn, and he lightly swats her on the ass. Rebecca, your thoughts?
hot, but also gross, but maybe hot. But I bet Maggie was pleased, so we'll go with hot. She
But still, don't touch people without
Yeah,
permission.
sure, like, consent, but
Not in the
not in the
60s.
'60s, no, but within the yeah, it's still weird, it's still gross,
Is it
but
still creepy if someone grabs your ass that you wanted to grab your ass?
yeah, I mean, probably at your place of work where there hasn't been any other romantic or sexual initiation, it is gross, but not in the '60s. But either way, their chemistry is great, so I was like, "Oh, cute," and then was like, "Ew, gross," but
I will say Maggie did not seem to mind.
she didn't.
They continue to flirt until horrible old Sam enters. Joe wants to deliver the gossip about Matthew, but Sam doesn't want to hear it. Joe and Maggie really are made for each other. They're both like, "Hey, guess what? Did you hear?"
Yeah, they are, it's very cute that they aw, little T for two house where they can tell each other things about the town. They're lovely. I hope they get their day in the sun.
As we said, Sam doesn't want to hear any of it, and he asks to talk to Maggie privately. And Joe now makes a joke about her gross coffee
Yeah,
and agrees to give them some privacy.
their flirtatious banter gives me life. It just makes me so happy.
Sam wants to know if Maggie has found out Mystery Lady's name.
Yeah, he's bugging her about Mystery Lady, and
She
she
hasn't learned anything, and he's disappointed.
well, and she turns around and is asking, like, "Why do you wanna know?" And he's cagey about it and won't say because that's what Sam does. They argue about Sam being secretive, and he grills her some more about what the lady might have said to her.
And she had forgot to previously mention the Phoenix nonsense, but Maggie relates it just in case he isn't familiar with the legend, and Sam stares off into space and remarks, "That was a fucking weird thing to talk about." But
Yeah,
Maggie thought it was kinda cool, I guess. It beats talking about fish business.
it's true.
Sam excuses himself, bound for the blue whale. Surprise. After Sam leaves, Joe rejoins her and then offers to go keep tabs on her dad at the bar. See what I did there?
Yeah, I do.
They flirt a little more before Joe leaves. But once Maggie is alone, who should return but Mystery Lady? She sits at the counter sneakily while Maggie is refilling sugars or something, and Maggie looks up surprised, and Mystery Lady orders a coffee. They make small talk for all of 2 seconds before Maggie is eager to tell her all of the Matthew gossip, and she tells the ghost story with the disclaimer that, "Now this may be far-fetched, but anyway, Vicky saw a ghost and the ghost killed the murderer and
Mr.
spooky."
Mr. Lady does not really like any of this ghost gossip. Like, she's just like, no, no, thanks. Let's talk about something else. She seemed bothered and concerned at the story. Maggie switches gears and asks how was seeing her family, and she says that she hasn't seen them yet. Maggie is like, well, I bet it'll be a surprise. And Mystery Lady goes, it will be a shock.
And Maggie's like, "Okay, well, good luck with that."
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because Maggie's beat never changes. She's just the happy bouncing ball, and so these people are being dramatic and cryptic around her, and she's like, "Okay, cool."
Mystery Lady lights a cigarette and then stares enraptured at the match for a bit
Then
before extinguishing it.
extremely seductively blows out the match. She's like, "You can't see me, but I'm being seductive."
I can't see her either because I try not to look at her when we're recording because it makes the mic bleed worse, but also because we sometimes cause each other to get too tickled and then we have to have a laughing and coughing fit.
Yeah,
So
we cough and then or we laugh and then we wheeze and then we cough.
it's better if we
Yeah,
just don't look at each other.
it's true.
Maggie says that the lady looks familiar, and this isn't necessarily true, but she's trying to get her a name out of her. She's like, "Say, you look familiar. Aren't you a Smith or a Johnson or
Yeah.
somebody?" And this doesn't work. So she even offers her own name real pointedly as Mystery Lady starts to leave. She's like, "I'm Maggie." Pause to imply, "And you are?" But Mystery Lady does not
She's just
bite.
like, thanks, Maggie. Bye."
Over at the Blue Whale, Sam is shit-faced and annoying, clinging to and rambling at Joe. I
Yeah,
like to cling to Joe.
yeah.
Sam is being annoying, and Joe asks what's bothering him. Sam delivers some vague nonsense about the past catching up to him, but then Maggie arrives, and Sam is real eager to grill her alone, and Joe steps away after being shooed, and Maggie scolds Sam for being a dick. He gets all pissy and yells at Maggie and grabs her by the arm when she doesn't have an answer for him. So she relates the conversation that she did have with Mystery Lady, and Sam is evasive and belligerent and then leaves in a huff. Joe offers to Maggie to follow Sam to keep an eye on him, but she says no, he'll figure it out or whatever. And she starts to head home by herself, but Joe offers her a ride and they exit together.
Sam is wandering around in the night outside, and he enters the inn and calls for Wells, but he isn't there.
That's Maggie's
That's
gossipy front desk friend.
yes. And he looks at the check-in book and then immediately goes to make a call in the phone booth, but Mystery Lady comes in and he turns his face away so she doesn't see him there. Then he places his phone call and it's to Roger.
In the foyer at Collinwood, Roger answers, and Sam summons him to the Blue Whale. He says, "The worst thing that could happen has happened," and then hangs up.
Yeah.
This works on Roger, and he grabs his hat and heads out. Over at the Blue Whale, Sam is throwing back another drink because, of course, as Roger enters in his detective getup. Roger scolds Sam for calling him and being weird, but Sam cons Roger into buying him another drink and then says, much like David earlier, in far too many words that take far too long, that Roger's wife is back in town. Roger looks devastated, and Sam gets a kick out of that, but Roger is pissed. Just when he was starting to get a little friendlier with Burke. Damn it. End credits. Episode 129, Victoria Winters reminds us that things are pretty chill for her now, but Roger is in deep shit. At the Blue Whale, Roger sits down as Sam salts the wound about Laura being in town. He explains that he ran into her in the lobby of the inn.
He tells her she's at the inn, and he says, "Are you sure it was her?" And he's certain, and that it could mean the end for both of them. Opening
Opening
credits.
credits. Roger and Sam continue to freak out about Laura being in town as the bartender brings Sam another drink. Sam implies that perhaps Burke summoned Laura to town.
Yeah.
They are staying at the same hotel and they did used to bone.
Yeah, maybe he brought her in to torture Roger.
Roger doesn't think so, but Sam is still trying to rile him up, telling him about how Laura has been questioning Maggie at the inn all about the Collinses, and Roger stands up and asks, "Why did she have to come back?" Sam exposits that Laura has been in the sanitarium because of alcoholism and guilt about the accident. Sam says outright, "Does she know that I saw the accident?" And I think that might be the first time it is said aloud and not just implied that
Right.
Sam witnessed the manslaughter.
Equally so with Roger saying, she may or may not know that he paid for his silence. He really genuinely doesn't know.
He flubs the line, though,
Oh, he did,
because
yeah,
Roger doesn't say, "She may or may not know that I paid for your
for
silence." He
my
says,
silence,
yeah.
yeah. I remember thinking that was wrong, but I just, yeah, skipped through it.
He gets pissy and begins to leave, but then Sam gets pissy with him and he leaves. Over at the Evanses' house, Maggie and Joe enter, and she offers him a nightcap, and he agrees, and they flirt, and it's cute. He tries to get her to tell him what's the matter, and she resists a little bit, but then explains about Mystery Lady.
Who we now know as Laura Collins.
Maggie tells Joe that she mentioned the lady's name to Sam, but no, she didn't because she didn't know it, and that's why her and Sam were fighting earlier because she didn't get a name.
Oh, I didn't catch that
Is this bad
misfire.
writing or a line reading mistake?
Who
One
knows?
of the
It's a
two.
mystery.
Anyway, Maggie thinks that Sam is afraid of the lady and that that's weird. Joe asks a bit more about Mystery Lady because he doesn't remember her, even though he just saw her yesterday. But Maggie says, well, she's pleasant, but she's a little bit odd. There's just something weird about her. Joe suggests that maybe the lady is just an old girlfriend and Sam is embarrassed and doesn't want to talk to his daughter about it. And it's probably something innocent like that.
Yeah, he sort of is talking down to her a little bit and condescending and says that she's blowing it out of proportion and letting her imagination run wild. And
That
then he
is
thinks that maybe it was a model or an old girlfriend, like you said. But I thought he was kind of being a little bit of a jackass about it, which I love Joe. But I mean,
I do too, but about 40% of this show is dudes telling ladies they're being crazy.
yeah, well, it was the 60s. That's another t-shirt idea. Well, it was the 60s.
Yeah.
Okay, where were we? We were tickled
We
over
were at over at Collinwood. Roger enters and again discards his coat and hat on the foyer table.
he's pacing and grimacing and drinking brandy. Liz comes in and he says, "Hey, where have you been?" And he tells her he's been at the Whale and Sam had called him there and he says, "You need a brandy before I tell you about it." And she doesn't want a brandy and wants him to get to the point. And he's like, "Well, you sure will wish you had a brandy." But then he's like, "Laura is back." Shocked Liz face.
Her eyes get
Dun-dun.
real big and
Yeah.
she grimaces and She wonders aloud what Laura is doing back, but Roger doesn't know, so he calls the inn and asks for Laura Murdoch. The desk clerk confirms that, yeah, there's a Laura Murdoch staying here. Should I ring her room? Which is a big no no. I have worked in many hotels. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But in the 60s, they probably didn't care if you stalked people.
Yeah, it was the 60s.
Anyway, the desk
Liz
clerk is like, "Yeah, she's here." So Liz and Roger continue to theorize about what Laura might be up to.
Roger's like, "Money?" And Liz says, "Well, that we give her a healthy check every month." And Roger thinks, "Well, maybe it's not enough, or maybe it's not money at all." And
Liz
then brings up the sanatorium.
well, Liz is more concerned that she might want to see David, and Roger's attitude is like, "So, she's his mom."
Liz would rather not, though, and for whatever reason, we don't know why exactly she was in the sanatorium.
Well, Liz well, we kind of do because Sam told us that she was an
Yeah.
alcoholic and went crazy for being guilty about the manslaughtering and covering it up. Roger suggests to Liz that, well, if you don't want her to see David, you can tell her that, but I don't particularly care.
Well, and she's like, "You might not love your kid, but I do." And she's a very unwell woman, and it wouldn't be good for him. They argue about it some more, and
And Liz kind of calls him a pussy.
yeah.
She's like,
Yeah, they
well, you're scared of your wife.
And she's like, "Well, call her." And he's like, "No."
They argue some more, and eventually Roger has had enough for the evening and suggests they talk about it tomorrow. Liz is like, well, okay, but I doubt either of us will sleep well, and she goes upstairs. Roger paces the drawing room and pulls faces at the camera a bit before turning out the lights and following.
Back at the Evanses', Maggie asks Joe to talk to her about boats, but he knows that her mind isn't on boats, and she's sad about her dad and Mystery Lady. Sam gets home, and Joe gets ready to leave.
Because who wouldn't?
Yeah, I mean, bye. God, Sam's awful.
Anyway, Sam pours another drink, yet another drink, and Joe offers to stay and help Maggie with the drunk, but she declines in a sad, like, "Ah, it's fine, I'm used to it," sort of way.
It was sad and resigned, and I do appreciate how Joe seems to be sort of wanting to help her with that and, like, showing more attention and affection now that he's kicked crazy old Carolyn to the curb. I think that it's sweet that he wants to help her deal with her alcoholic father, which a good way to do that would be to just set him out to sea or something. Like, "Here, come with me, old Sam, to for some fish business." Maggie would be better off. Fuck Sam. Anyway,
Indeed,
and
but
rant.
Sam has gone over to his easel, but Maggie wants to put him to bed. He won't go and insists
He wants to stay up and paint, and
he has an idea he's just got to get onto a canvas.
she gives up and leaves him to his own devices, and he goes to light a cigarette, but instead stares at the match a long time, like Mystery Lady did.
Enraptured by the match, one might say.
Yes, and he blows his match out, but not seductively at all in any way, shape, or form could Sam do that. And then he goes to paint, inspired and drunk and gross.
The
Back
score also gets extra spooky as he
Yeah.
goes to do his drunken night painting.
Yeah.
The following morning at Collinwood, Roger is trying again to call Laura at the inn, but tells Liz he couldn't get through or she had gone out or something. I don't remember what happened there. Liz asks why he didn't leave a message, as if to say, I know it's because you're a little bitch. But he says he's not all that eager to see her. Liz, however, is eager for a chat. Back over at the Evanses is Maggie tries to rouse a passed out Sam from the sofa, and he does not like this idea, but she insists, and she doesn't want to leave for work until she knows he hasn't given himself alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, get up, drunk daddy. I gotta pay the bills. It's fucking sad.
He laments his hangover, and she says he deserves it for being such a pain in the ass. But then she gets distracted because she notices a finished painting and asks if this is what he was working on last night. He has no memory of this. He was like, "I painted last night?" And he goes over to look, and he is shocked and upset by it. Maggie agrees and says that it's creepy and not like what he normally does. No self-respecting motel would hang this. She describes it to the camera as a woman in flames. A bit later, we see the painting as Sam regards it for a second time, carrying it over to a table more accessible to the camera.
Yeah.
And it is clearly Laura standing with her arms raised, wing-like, and also a bit like a dance move from the fictional dance review goddess from the film Showgirls. End credits. Episode 130. My, we've come a long way, yet we have such a long, long way to go. That's not a complaint. I'm into it. We'll
Yeah,
be doing this for like 6 or 7 years probably
I'm into it. It's good times.
if, you know, we don't perish in the wars before this.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Anyway, episode 130. Victoria Winters reminds us everybody at Collinwood is a scared of Laura. In the foyer, Roger is nervously dialing the phone and he asks for Laura Murdoch's room, but she isn't in. He tells the receptionist no message, he'll just call back later, and he returns to the drawing room and bitches to Liz that he still can't get a hold of her.
that entire time, Mrs. Johnson had been at the top of the stairs eavesdropping, as is her Burke job. And she now comes down so that she can dust the foyer and continue her spying.
Eavesdrop David style, just like
Yeah.
placed up against right outside the drawing room doors.
Right.
Roger and Liz are talking about Burke also being at the inn, and maybe he is involved in Laura coming back. So Mrs. Johnson rushes off before the opening credits.
At Burke's hotel room, Burke sits down with Mrs. Johnson and she says they, meaning the Collinses, think Burke had something to do with bringing Laura. And
She
hold
does
on.
tease it out a little bit. She's
Yeah, she
like, well,
does.
somebody's come back.
I was
They-
typing furious. I
They
must say.
think that you have something to do with this mystery somebody, and he's kinda like, "Just fucking spit it out, lady."
Right.
And
And
she
she's
does.
yeah, and he says that he did try to find her a couple years ago, but she was in the sanatorium at that point.
And
He asked
Burke is shocked, but also gets that look in his eye like he's got an angle on this, like,
yeah,
"Oh, that's a surprise, but
but also,
mm."
he asks where she is, and she says conveniently here at the hotel. He calls down to ask if she's registered here, and Mrs. Johnson remembers that she's here under her maiden name after he'd already asked for Collins and no one was there. And
Again,
he tells him Murdoch and confirms that she was there and what room. Were you gonna say again?
I was just going to say that again, the desk clerk is like, "Oh, yeah, here she's here. This is her room number.
Yeah,
You
no,
want a
it's
key?"
yeah, no, well, it was the 60s. Burke is happy with Mrs. Johnson's super maid, super spy powers and says he will have something extra for her in her paycheck. I was a maid for years and I should have been a spy maid like Mrs. Johnson because then you get double paychecks.
None of your people were interesting enough to spy on. If they were,
Probably.
you would have told me
Yeah,
about
it's
it.
true.
Burke leaves to knock on Laura's door and he bangs on it insistently, but there is no answer, so he just grimaces and walks away. Over at Collinwood, David is outside swinging on his swing set as Laura approaches and watches creepily from the shadows hiding in the bushes. Later, inside, Mrs. Johnson is putting David to bed as he complains about her cooking. She threatens that David might just be getting the discipline he's been sorely lacking all these years, and she's just dying to tell him, but for some reason is being vague about it.
Yeah, she really wants to.
The wind is howling outside the open window, and Mrs. Johnson goes to close it. But David likes it open. He tells Mrs. Johnson that, by the way, earlier, I felt like I was being watched by a lady
And
hiding in the bushes.
and Mrs. Johnson's like, "Was it one of your ghost pals?" And he's like, "No, it was somebody else." She tells him to go to sleep.
Yeah, she
It's just like,
dismisses
"Okay,
this
well,
as
I don't
like,
wanna talk about this anymore."
okay, kid, you're weird. This
Yeah.
is dumb. I'm gonna go.
And she does, and he immediately gets up and goes to open the window again and goes to lay back down.
Downstairs, Roger is still trying to get Laura on the phone without any success. So he goes into the drawing room and tells Liz he still hasn't talked to her. Liz wants to know if Roger plans to tell David about his mother being back in town. And Roger isn't sure. Liz thinks that they ought to tell him just so he's prepared. Upstairs, David tosses and turns. Downstairs, a knock at the door. Mother is home. Mrs. Johnson invites her in as the wind howls even more dramatically. She remarks on the creepy wind, and Laura's like, yeah, it is creepy, isn't it? As if she were somehow responsible for it. At this, Roger enters and is surprised into silence by seeing his missus, but eventually lets out an annoyed, hello, Laura. And Laura sounds an awful lot like, bitch.
Yeah.
But Roger tells her that she looks well, and she asks after David, whom she's eager to see, and they're being pleasant enough with each other after that. He leads her into the drawing room to see Liz, and Liz and Laura are also being pretty pleasant with each other. Liz invites her to sit by the fire, and she instead sits practically in the fire.
Yeah. Yeah, she's
They have
right
a
up
little
on it.
sort of bench seat railing right outside the fireplace for tending to the fire,
That would be good for my old bones, like, to get that close,
and
but
she sits there instead of on the sofa by the fire. Anyway, Laura's sitting practically in the fire, staring transfixed into the fire as we cut briefly away to David tossing and turning some more. Roger offers Laura a drink, but she tells him that he'll be happy to know she's stopped drinking since, being in rehab/crazy hospital.
yeah.
Liz fishes for what her intentions might be. Like, oh, are you planning on staying around long? You gonna leave again?
Yeah.
And Laura kind of calls her on it, like, oh, you're worried I'm moving back. I'm not doing
Yeah, I don't
that.
wanna be here, I have no desire to be here. She, talks about how the sanatorium was helpful, and when
she
she left, she thought about what she wanted, and
She apologizes for the previous drama,
yeah,
like, in a
she
very,
does.
"Sorry I was a crazy drunk, before. Sorry about all that."
Yeah.
She tells them that the hospital worked and she isn't crazy or drunk anymore. "See? Don't I look sane?" She does tell them when Roger tries to get out of her, like, "Well, if you're not moving back, what are you doing here?" She tells them that she wants David. At this, we cut upstairs to see him tossing and turning and crying out, "Mother,
Mother.
mother," in his sleep.
Roger's like, "Really?"
Yeah,
Okay.
downstairs, she explains that she wants to take David to live with her. Roger is kinda into this idea, but Liz is
Clearly opposed, yeah.
side-eyeing this quite heavily, and the temperature in conversation starts to rise, and Roger gets worried for a second that Laura has come back to play happy families, like, "Oh, I want David back and also you," but Laura's like, "Oh,
She's like,
no, no,
"No,
no, no, don't worry, I have no interest in being married to you,
I'm
we're."
happy to get divorced. I just want complete custody of David."
And David, we see again upstairs, still
Yeah. Or
mothering.
restless mother.
Downstairs, Liz is aghast at this suggestion. Laura insists further to Roger, like, "No, I don't want any money, just David." Roger warns her, like, "Well, you might not know this, but he's a little creep and very difficult to get along with." Other than that, though, Roger is intrigued by this notion of, "You mean I get rid of that little bastard
And you're
and
not
I
gonna
don't
try
have
to
to pay her anything anymore?"
and you're not gonna try to destroy me? Like, yeah, it's all working out for Roger.
Yeah, but Liz insists that this is a decision that has to be up to David, which is pretty liberal for the time, being the
It
60s.
absolutely is, but Laura also agrees and is like, "Oh, no, it absolutely has to be." Like, she wants David to choose on his own.
And Laura also asks to, on her way out, to look in on David while he sleeps, but Liz refuses, and they're kind of testing each other's boundaries
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, Liz shuts that down. She's like, "No, we're not gonna do that." And Laura's like, "Okay, well, I'll wait for Roger's call," and then she
Yeah,
leaves.
they part ways civilly. No one is outright fighting.
Yeah, but
Uh,
Liz really did, like, pretty sternly was like, "No, that's okay. Bless your
upstairs,
heart."
yeah. Upstairs, David climbs out of bed. Roger comes back into the drawing room after seeing Laura out and asks her what she thought about all of that. She doesn't know, but she's clearly furious. David creeps down the stairs in the foyer and Roger catches him, but he seems to be sleepwalking or in some kind of
Yeah,
trance.
he's just standing there staring unresponsibly as Roger asks him why he's down here, and then the
The
w
ghost wind blows the door wide open.
that, yeah, and he dashes right out, but they catch him as he's frantically running out into the night yelling, "Mother,
Mother, mother.
mother," and he
But
says he's dreamed that his mother has come and that she was calling him.
doesn't elaborate on why his mother calling him would be a bad dream. At any rate, Liz ushers him back inside as Roger closes the door and is clearly a bit creeped out.
Yeah, they
Eh,
shuffle him back in and shut it down.
End credits. This is a pretty exciting week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been busy. We get mother, and
I am
Matthew
very
died, and
I'm excited for Laura's story business. This is my favorite bit
he's
of
been teasing me and just telling me every episode, like, set that we do, he'll be like, "This is this many episodes before we get to
this
what he
thing.
calls what he
Uh,
calls Laura Collins," but it's very fun, and you'll love it.
well, before we ever recorded a second of the podcast, I had sent Rebecca a picture of an amazing face that Laura makes later
It's
on.
pretty great.
And any thoughts or opinions on these episodes you would like to express?
I'm glad Matthew's dead. But I don't like to say that phrase, so I'm never saying it again. Um, I am glad that
It's
creepy old creep.
okay. Ghosts don't want me
No,
dead.
they don't. Ghosts want you to be my best friend and be alive. That's what ghosts want. Anyway,
Among other things, namely your money. Subscribe to the Patreon.
yeah, please do that. We're sleepy. Good night. We love you.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, we're not done.
Wait.
Wait, there's more.
A fond welcome and thank you to the two lovely gentlemen that subscribed to the Patreon,
Oh, thank you.
one of which carried over. Jacob, I don't know if you even listen to this or if you just give me $5 a month because we're old internet friends, but thank you, Jacob.
Thanks, Jacob.
And also, and because I neglected to ask if you wanted your full name read aloud on the podcast, also welcome at the $10 Spectre level. Austin has joined the Patreon and can look forward to some surprise welcome gifts
Thanks,
as
guys.
soon as they get here in the mail and I can mail them out. So yeah, yay, thanks
Yay.
Jacob and Austin.
Get ready to hear about pills.
Don't you want to be cool like Jacob and Austin?
Don't you want to be something like me? What?
No. I'm shutting that down.
Okay, I don't even know.
Patreon.com/ghosts want you dead. Ghosts want you dead on Instagram. I believe that is all for now.
Good night and goodbye.
And good luck and good
Good-
morning.
Good ghosts.